I'm Graham.
And I'm Corinne.
And we are 2Talented.
And welcome back to episode 2 of the 2Talented podcast. Today we are going to, again, just give you some tools and strategies that we hope you can use. Today's topic is around interview preparation, something that I think a lot of people maybe struggle with, knowing what to do in preparation once they finally nail or secure an interview. So we're going to talk a little bit about best practices, hopefully give people some tools, actually provide something on our Patreon, which we'll talk about later, that everyone can download if they're in this situation, to stay organized and just be the best prepared they can. So yeah, we're going to do some quick life updates and then get into the meat of the topic of the episode with that topic. And Graham, where are we recording from?
We are still in Ouray, Colorado, in your childhood home. And this is not going to be our typical studio. This is a makeshift studio of a bedroom / closet that we're just kind of working our way together. We have a dog asleep in the background, as you may be able to see.
Fully sprawled across the bed.
What that is back there.
That's a dog.
It's a dog, if you're watching this on YouTube. So just heads up. So that's where we're recording from today.
Yeah. And I'm fresh off my run, still in my run clothes, but everyone understands working from home, running during the middle of the day, that happens. So wanted to just dive in first to, again, if you're new to the podcast, we are a show kind of for job seekers, hiring managers, and everyone in between that process. And we're here to cover a different topic each episode that, hopefully is going to be something of value, whether you're a job seeker, you're hiring manager, that you can use and kind of just get something out of in helping you feel the most prepared and in aligning you to the job you want and aligning a hiring manager to the candidates they want. So that's the goal of the podcast. As always, continue sending in questions you have for us. But how's it going with, Graham? You launched Stride Staffing. That is the name of your new company, our company, I guess.
Since you're the owner.
Technically, yes, we are women owned. So how's it going with Stride Staffing? We're about 3 weeks in. So this first is real talk about the entrepreneurial journey.
That's right. It's good. The podcast, which is kind of supposed to be kind of tied to Stride Staffing, is good. I like doing it. I like planning it out and that type of thing. So, but the actual business, I think I've met with now 15 different hiring managers throughout mostly the Denver area. So I'm starting to get a pretty good run on that, which is great. No job orders yet, but I do know of multiple that are hopefully coming that I can work on and start kind of making some moves in that regard.
For someone that is unaware, can you explain the definition of a job order?
Sure. So a job order would be like a job that you would see posted online that anybody would apply for. But in this case, they're going to send it to me because they're having trouble finding the specific person that's required for this. And a lot of times they're harder to fill type jobs, and I'm excited to work on those type of things. So when I get a job order from a manager, that kind of triggers a second, like a phone call with that manager to understand all the important things of it. And then kind of take it from there, start recruiting for it, start to reach out to people directly and see if anyone would be interested in it.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, so that's been good. And then running has been great down here. There's nothing flat with the exception of the one, road that's here that is sort of flat. So we did a really, really steep mountain run on Sunday. And today was kind of like a recovery run from that. Well, it's fun. It's nice to be in the mountains.
Yeah, my quads are still sore from Sunday's 10-mile run with 4,000 feet of climbing. Yeah,
for sure. So what's going on with you?
What's going on with me is I'm working remotely down here for the feed, but it's Hard Rock Week, Hard Rock 100 week. I'm not sure when this will be published. It might be after the race, but probably be after the race. So we will all know what happened at Hard Rock 100. But I'm going to be doing interviews, pre-race interviews. We are both going to be commentating during the race, which will be fun. And we are keeping the boys busy on summer vacation, just letting them have some mountain time and outdoor time. They have a friend in town, which is fun. And so it's good for them to get outside and not be stuck inside all day while we're working.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, shall we move to the part of this thing?
All right, let's do it. What is the topic?
So the topic is interview prep that doesn't suck. Because there's a lot of stuff out there that's kind of like a halfway prep or whatever. And what we'd like to create is kind of some talking points around some best practices with interview prep. As we had mentioned before, we're going to create a checklist that we're going to put on the Patreon page in the next week or so, which will be up there that anyone who's a Patreon member can go look, download, keep, use it in their own job search. I think it's great as a way to organize yourself and make you feel like, I got this. I can do this interview.
Yeah. So there's a few different types of interviews you may get, but and applying for jobs is a whole other topic that we're not tackling today. But where we're starting is you've applied, you finally get a response about wanting to have an interview set up. So we're going to talk through kind of what you should do from there.
Yep.
But in the sum of it, I said I like to kind of think of it like if you're doing a big painting job in a room and it takes you a long time to tape every single corner of the room because you want really clean lines. The preparation and the taping is the bulk of the work, but it makes it really easy when you actually get to painting. So we're going to give you the tools of that prep and that like blue tape that you need to do before you actually embark on the interview. And I think, yeah, one of the first things to understand and realize is what type of interview is this? So we have different backgrounds, me being more internal recruiting, you being more on the agency side. A lot of times as a recruiter in an internal firm, I would actually have a first round interview screen as a recruiter with the candidate. And that screening call is a critical part of the process that we would talk through certain things, but it's not with the hiring manager necessarily. So it depends on the company and their process. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Graham?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's important from the standpoint of making that distinction because an interview with a talent acquisition person, which is what your job was, can be a little different than the interview with the hiring manager. The hiring manager is going to have maybe more technical type questions about your specific skills for this job, or they're going to want to understand fit within that group. Whereas the talent acquisition person, and you can speak to this probably better than I can, but they're looking for overall company fit. They're looking to make sure that they kind of check the boxes, that they have the minimum qualifications for the role. You're going to do some screening as a talent acquisition person, but it's probably not nearly as in-depth as the manager screening. Depends on who you're talking to the type of questions that you're going to get from them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think sometimes in a recruiter or talent acquisition interview, one of the biggest things to cover is money and whether or not you're even in the realm of what the role pays to move forward in the process. I mean, I think it is a big miss when a company goes through 3 or 4 interviews with a candidate and they have not talked about the salary yet. It's a waste of everyone's time. And so one thing I would do as a recruiter, would be to make sure that general ballpark would align. And we'll talk about how you approach that from a candidate standpoint. But yeah, I think that's one of the main things. And like you said, that recruiter may or may not know that much about the position.
Right.
Some of them do. Some of them are, they have no idea what the actual job necessarily entails. They're just kind of trying to say, is this person worth passing along to the hiring manager?
Right.
So I guess the first point would be research and know who you're talking to.
For sure. Yeah. So
Talk a little more about that. How would you do that?
If I'm going to be talking to a talent acquisition person, I'm going to be ready for...
But how do you know, first and foremost, that you are talking to a talent acquisition person?
So I think one of the most important things to do is kind of the first thing is you should hopefully have the name of the person you're going to be talking to, right? You're going to get an invite from them, or it's going to be somewhere on the invite of who you're talking to. Look them up on LinkedIn. Make sure you're very familiar with the person that you're going to be talking to. I think that's the first step. And I would do that with anybody and get an understanding of who this is, what kind of questions you're probably going to get. So from a talent acquisition standpoint, you probably will get that money question first in that first round to make sure things are aligning, and we can talk about kind of how I would answer, or probably you would answer that question. And what else would you ask as a talent acquisition person?
Yeah, I think, location, your ability to work in the office, or if you're looking for remote, like some of those things that are kind of, yeah, this is 100% in office job, and therefore I need to make sure that this person understands that and is willing to do that. Or where they're located, and how is that commute going to look for them. I might go through, kind of some of their basic experience and just touch on that. Going back on their resume, um, may want to know why they left or are no longer at their previous job. I might want to know kind of what their objective is in why they applied to this position. So why were you interested in this role? Why are you interested in this company? Those kinds of things. Yeah, those are some of the basics.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great.
If there's any question marks around short stints at jobs,
Yep.
you might want to talk through that. Do you know anybody that works at our company? Things like that.
For sure. And I think the rest of this interview prep will go, it's probably slightly more aligned if you are interviewing with the hiring manager, but I think you can use some of this as it's going to be applicable to either type.
Yeah. And I think that you need to think about this like every step of this process, you need to, just like if you're speaking to a room, you need to know your audience, and you need to be able to kind of earn that person's vote of approval to move on to the next step, whatever that looks like. So you're going to have to kind of adapt and shift. You might get more HR-esque type questions. You might get questions that are formatted like, behavioral interview style questions. If you were in this situation, how would you respond? Things like that. Whereas a hiring manager, depending on the level of interview training that they've done, it might be completely different. It might be very conversational. It might be,
or it might be very technical.
Yeah, it might be very, very specific as to like the nitty gritty of the role, which, depending on but you're essentially, your job is to sell yourself to every single one of these people, and they're all going to have kind of different styles and be looking for different things.
For sure. So we'll jump into some things that can set you up for success in being able to sell yourself. So the first thing in the checklist is, we've titled it Research Like a Pro. Really get into understanding on LinkedIn who you're going to be talking to. So whether it's the talent acquisition person or the manager, look them up. Try to get an understanding of where they worked before. Did you ever work in possibly the same company as them in the past? Are you guys in the same geography? Could you happen to be in the same town that you could talk about? Looking for areas of commonality, I think, is really, really important. And it's sometimes impossible. I look for that all the time when I'm doing a sales call. It's some common thing that I can talk to them about. And probably 60, 70% of the time I can find something, but there are times that you can't. So, sometimes it just doesn't exist. But looking for that is important. If they have hobbies on their LinkedIn profile and you do something similar to them or the same thing, I think that's important. But I think one of the most important thing is, don't make stuff up, right? Don't look and be like, oh, this person, appears to be a runner and I ran 25 years ago. Maybe I'll bring it. Don't do that. Look for real areas of commonality, because it's easy to spot if you're making stuff up. Second thing is search the company, and you can check out their website, and that's fine. Spend a minute or two there. There usually isn't stuff that I feel like is super pertinent on their website for you as a candidate. It's usually going to be pretty high level type stuff. So one of the ways that I do is I'll go into Google, or you can do it with ChatGPT, and try to find any articles written about the company in the past 6 months. Find out what's going on with them. Is there a big lawsuit going on that you might want to know about? Is there, did they have some financial news that would be important to know? Are they doing a merger? Any big type of information, it's pretty important that you are at least familiar with that. That way you can speak to it should it come up, or you can even develop a question around it, which I think can be very powerful. It shows you did some homework.
Yeah, I would say that is one key thing, that, coming to any interview with at least a couple questions about the company. showing you've done the research, but showing your level of interest, showing your level of preparation, and showing that you took it seriously.
For sure. And it's actually one of the pieces of the checklist is, what those questions should entail.
Yep.
But I think you're dead on. I mean, I think that's very, very important and can come from this research. And the last thing is analyze the job description. There's going to be a whole lot of boilerplate in that job description that just doesn't matter. So go in and try to kind of envision what do you feel like are the most important pieces of that job description for the specific job, and start to develop maybe some high level talking points about how you can, bring this type of experience to the table that would solve the issue that maybe they're facing. So really understanding kind of the really important parts of the job description well, and make sure you're pretty well versed in it, and, write some notes about those types of things. That way you can refer to it. 2 is use your network. So check LinkedIn for people that you might know who work at the company. And if you can get a chance to talk to them or send them an email with a few questions, just so you can get some highlights about, what the company's about, what it's like to work there, that type of thing, definitely do. If you don't know anyone there, not a big deal. There could be other people that that worked for the company previously that you could maybe reach out to. So anybody you can talk to who can give you a little bit of inside baseball about how this company functions, I think would be really important. And then the last one here is reach out. Actually, it's the next bullet, but it's checking out Glassdoor.
I was going to ask you what your thoughts were about Glassdoor.
It's like a restaurant. The most people who leave a review are either going to be super excited about their evening or really, really grumpy about their evening. So you're going to get the extremes there. So I think the most important thing to do is see if there's any pattern. If you get a pattern on either a very positive thing or a negative thing, you see 3 reviews that have that, I would pay attention to that. The person that says their boss is terrible and worked them to death and blah, 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 I don't know. Unless that's a pattern that you're seeing, I wouldn't put a lot of faith into it. But it's at least worth checking out. What do you think?
Hard to know if that's going to be your manager too. I think that it depends a lot on, I think it's worth looking at, but there are so many like microcultures within companies,
right,
that there could be, people that are just super irate about their own little department, and that was a horrible toxic environment, but that's nothing to do with where you're ever going to be working or touching. So it might not even pertain to you. Yes, I think you can get a lot of negative comments on there just because that is a way that people, want to vent and share their opinions about things. But I think you're exactly right about the trends. And if there's something that is kind of a constant, at some point in the interview process, maybe not the first round, but that's something you could ask about.
Sure.
I noticed this on Glassdoor. What do you guys, have you done anything to address it? What do you, how would you respond to that kind of thing is totally fine, because at the end of the day, you are interviewing the company as much as they are interviewing you, and you need to make sure that it is it's a good fit for you and a good environment.
I totally agree with that. So number 4 is to prepare questions, going back into what you were talking about before. So I think the advice here, we've already talked about it a little bit, where you would get these questions through the research that you've got, either Glassdoor review, or, if they're doing a big merger, asking about how that may affect this department and job, some kind of higher level strategic questions. One of the things that you want to do is have a conversation starter question, not a yes or a no question. Yes or no questions, just move past so quickly. It's almost like you didn't even ask a question. Mm-hmm. So making sure it's going to be an open-ended question. And also, I would make sure that you can have it either role specific or like high level company type stuff, but try not to ask a question that's going to be maybe hard for the person to answer, or from a different department or whatever. It's like, if there's like this big accounting finding that you came across and you're asking a technology manager about it, they may have no idea how to answer that question. So it may not really go anywhere. So making sure it's a pertinent question.
Yeah, things you're genuinely curious about the company, where they're going, strategy, stuff like that. I think that maybe one of my favorite questions I would get from people is, what does success look like in this role? And yes. I think that could be, you could ask that of the recruiter, because you're going to get a different answer than if you ask the hiring manager, but those are things that are going to help you throughout the entire recruiting process to continue to refine how you add value to that job.
Very much so.
I really like that question of what does success in this role look like, or what have others that have been successful in this role, kind of what have they done, that has stood out or separated them.
Absolutely. Also practice questions, one that you've gotten tripped up in the past, because a lot of times questions get asked again, or some of the just regular stuff. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Teamwork stories. Really trying to just think through how you're going to answer those questions that are kind of the basics that get asked a lot. Having those succinct and dialed. One way to do it, practice in front of a mirror or with your partner or with the friend, and try to have a dialogue go with them, especially if there is another person, because it could be helpful to see where you might stumble and where you could work on. But I think practicing those kind of canned answers, because you're going to answer them the same way every time, you can get pretty good with those types of things. And so that's what I'd recommend there. This next topic is just specific around the medium, of the interview.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to think if you have anything to add to any of these. But so phone interview tips. One, make sure you stand up during a phone interview. It is important. You project more, you sound more confident. If you're walking around just a little bit, I wouldn't go walk on a busy street, make sure it's in a quiet area. But if you're moving around a little bit, that can help you really kind of project confidence. It can kind of help you think. It can also kind of lower the stress a little bit because you're kind of doing something slightly, even if it's just standing there. But standing while talking on the phone specifically, I think is the best practice. And then the way you answer the phone. You answered. So if it were me, my name's Graham. Hello, this is Graham. One, it avoids any confusion if they got the right person, because sometimes you're like, hello, and it's like, oh, hi, is this so-and-so? And, oh, yes, it is. Okay, that's a little bit of an awkward way to start. So if you start by saying your name, that'll help them understand that. Second, if your name's a little unique, it can help them understand how you would pronounce it. So you kill two birds with one stone. So what do you think?
Yeah, I like both of those. I think, standing, it's hard to portray energy and enthusiasm over the phone. So you might have to actually kind of overdo it, like act a little bit more like bubbly than you normally would, because it's difficult to get that. And the last thing you want to do is sound like you're
boring or over it.
Well, or like like you're not interested, you don't care, and so just think about that as you are speaking.
For sure. The second one is video interview techniques. So, or best practices. One thing that I would always do is dress up. I don't care if you're talking to a flip-flop culture, software development, 30-person startup. Wearing a button-up shirt as a guy or something nicer as a woman. I think women have a little more diverse options that they can wear. I think it's important. I've had a number of candidates do interviews in t-shirts who the first thing the hiring manager said in the feedback call was, man, they were in like a t-shirt and a hat.
Don't dress like me on this podcast in your interview. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah, and I think it shows a level of professionalism and how serious you're taking it. I have never, ever had anybody say the person was a little overdressed. Never. I mean, maybe they thought that. Maybe if you're wearing a suit and tie to a small company interview, that might be a bit much. But I think a button-up can go for just about any company, and you'll be fine. But yeah, so also use a stable camera. There's so many times where someone decides to take a video interview from their car, pulled over somewhere for unknown reasons, and they're holding their phone. And that phone is, moving around, jostling, or they're maybe not looking at it all the time. Or that's super distracting for the person who's interviewing. And I think it's really important that you find some way to either fix your phone to something so it's not going to move and you're not holding it, or realistically, do it from a computer. I think it makes all the difference, and I think it's really, really important. If you have to do it from your phone, just let the hiring manager know, hey, I have to do this from my phone for this reason. So just so you're aware, giving them the heads up, I think makes a big difference. And then checking lighting and background, like this background that we've got here is not the most, professional. If I were on an interview, I would probably say something about it. I've been doing meetings from a laundry room. I make a joke about it because it's not the most professional looking thing. We have a bunch of towels in the background, but you can kind of cover that. So try to have a professional background, but if you can't, bring it up and just say why it's not professional.
Yeah. And most platforms you can add a blur, or you can add even a canned background if you're in a place that's not super conducive.
For sure. Absolutely.
We don't know how to do that on Riverside. So.
Maybe we'll try to figure it out
at some point. Right now we have dog.
That's right. Dog in the background.
Yeah.
So in-person interview tips, and this is the last one for this, but if you can, and you're going to an office setting and you're going to commute the day before, at the time you're going to make that drive, go to Google Maps or Apple Maps and see what that traffic is like. That's not the worst thing you can do, but something that's not great is to be late for the interview because of traffic. It's like, why didn't you plan for that? So mitigate that by just taking a quick look. Like, oh, this 20-minute drive normally is actually 45 minutes at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. I should make sure I leave myself plenty of time. Printed copies of your resume, bringing them is always a plus. I don't think it's a must, but it shows a level of professionalism. And then have a backup plan in case you are commuting to whatever the location is and you're going to be late. I mean, you never know. All kinds of stuff happens. Have the person's email address or phone number handy. Pull over, do it safely, but send them an email or a quick phone call to say, hi, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. And that makes all the difference in the world. If you're 10 minutes late and you haven't called, that's a problem. If you're 10 minutes late and you called, usually that's great. So what do you think?
Yep. I think that's all good standard things. I mean, one other thing that I know you've mentioned to me in the past, if you do get there really early, hang out in your car and wait until, don't go into the building 30 minutes ahead of, everyone's very busy, and then you kind of become a nuisance of having to put you somewhere until the interview. So you can hang out in your car and keep prepping your going through questions and just making sure everything's good, and then head into the building or the office 5 or 10 minutes before.
100%. That's great advice, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's really important.
Yeah, firm handshakes.
Yep, firm handshakes, eye contact.
Eye contact is very important. I mean, I have definitely sat in many interviews where afterwards it's like, really? Did the person look at you at all? They didn't look at me at all. There's no eye contact. Yeah. So I feel like that's harder and harder to do with, I don't know, children in our world of digitalness, but it's important.
Yes.
You need to connect with people. And I think, also, trying to get them to talk a little bit is a strategy. You do want to share as much as, this is one thing you didn't put on your list that you could probably add in somewhere. But 2 pieces, like they always say, like, if you get the other person to talk a lot during the interview, you've won, because everyone likes talking about themselves.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I would go into every interview with a list of, 3 or 4 things that are the main things that I think I bring to this role that add value, that are going to differentiate me from other candidates, and make sure that those get across somehow. They're, whether you're asked a question that directly you can answer it with one of those things, even if that doesn't happen at the very end of the interview, if they say, do you have any other questions, before you ask your question or two, you can say, I do have a couple questions. I just wanted to make sure that I shared with you this, and this about my background, and that's why I think I'm a good fit for the role. Make sure that you give yourself that opportunity to basically pitch yourself and to highlight the things that you think are really important about your background.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last 2 are salary talk strategy and then closing the interview like a pro. So for the salary talk strategy, the candidate on the candidate side should not bring it up. In fact,
wait, before we talk about salary, do you want to plug Patreon?
Oh, yes. Patreon, 2Talented. You just go on to Patreon, put in 2Talented. We have a page set up. We're going to be adding more things to it over the next couple weeks, including this checklist that you could download and keep for yourself. We'll be putting all transcripts on there from the podcasts. It will become kind of a repository for all things job search. And I think it would be great. It's going to be $10 a month if you sign up.
Also a place where you can ask questions directly.
For sure. We will be having a second podcast once we start getting some people who are on there that will answer any questions that they've got. So we'll send them back an email if they have questions about job search specifically.
Or hiring manager questions.
Or a hiring manager question. And for the most common questions, we'll start doing a second weekly podcast that'll last about a half hour, just covering those questions, doing rapid fire Q&A to steal from another podcast that we listen to. But yes, Patreon.
Yeah, join the Patreon, hop in there, tell us what you want to hear about topics wise, and then we'll put all this information and all the tools and checklists and takeaways and things that we create. That's where they will live.
Absolutely.
Okay, so salary, money.
Yes. So first and foremost, the candidate should never bring up salary. That usually puts them in a losing position if they are bringing it up.
He who speaks money first loses.
Absolutely.
Is the phrase.
Or she.
They who speak, he, she, they, them, whoever speaks money first.
You got it. Loses. So inevitably, you're going to get asked, usually by the talent acquisition person in that first interview, about your salary expectations. The best way, and I hate when people do this in any other scenario, but for this is the way I would do this, is if I got asked, what are you looking to make in your next role? I would say, that's a great question. Thank you. What is the range of salary that this position pays? Mm-hmm. You answer a question with a question.
Just so you know, it's illegal for someone to ask you, how much did you make in your last position?
Not in every state. There's still some states where you can do it. But by and large, yes, across the United States, for the most part, they have outlawed that.
You're not allowed to ask how much somebody actually made in a last position.
Yep.
As a recruiter, internal recruiter, the question is exactly what you said. What are you looking to make in your next position?
Yes.
How much are you aiming to make? What salary are you targeting? Yeah, that's the question.
Yep. So hopefully when you answer their question with a question, the answer from them is, well, the range on this position is what? I don't know, 90 to 130. Let's say it's a higher level position.
And if you get a very savvy recruiter, they will not give you a range, because I would never give anybody a range over the phone on an interview, because the only thing they're going to remember is the highest end of the range.
Top
end of the range. So sometimes you might get a salary, and it actually might be posted on the job,
yes,
which you can reference back to, because now a lot of states, including Colorado, require you to post a salary range for every single job. But if I got the question from a candidate, what's the range for the position, I would tell them an exact number. This role pays approximately $95,000.
And give them the median.
I would, or I'd give them a low. It depends. I mean, I would give them some part of that range, but I would give them an exact number.
Okay. And if you're above that, you can answer, and they give you a number. You can say, okay, I'm targeting a little bit above that. Does this conversation still make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And typically they're going to say, yeah, absolutely. We can probably be somewhat flexible in this.
You could also ask, are there other components? Because a salary package may be made up of multiple things: a base salary, a target bonus, or a percentage bonus, or a flat amount bonus. There could be long-term incentive on it. There could be
really hot benefits.
There could be really good benefits. There could be equity. There could be reimbursement, expense reimbursement stuff, all kinds of other things. So base is this, and it likely says it in the job description anyways. Right. This is a base plus bonus position. This is equity eligible, various things like that. This is an hourly position, whatever. So kind of take it based on but it's important to know all of those components, because they do make up a complete compensation package.
For sure. Absolutely. So that's kind of how we recommend handling money. It's a delicate subject. You got to be kind of cautious on how you approach it, how you answer it, and how you maneuver through it. One other thing that you can be doing is, even if they gave you a number and you're a good bit higher than that, I would continue, if they're willing to continue through the process and they know that, I would continue it with them, because they may be able to do something like level up the position to get you or something else. So I would never want to just back away from a position because it's like, oh no, well, clearly that's too low. If they're still interested and they know what you're looking for, I'd stick with it and see what happens.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of times where they come up in compensation.
Yeah.
And the last, closing the interview like a pro. So that this is typically because they're going to ask you at the end of the interview, what questions do you have? And this is your time to shine. Show them that you did some homework, some research, really take a look at the company overall and ask some good, thoughtful questions around the role, the manager, whatever you ended up coming up with. And then what I call the closing question. So, and I'm going to read it word for word, just so I can kind of say it the way I kind of wrote it out. But the final question is, I really enjoyed speaking with you and would be excited to move forward. Is there anything I can clarify that might help my chances? So what you're looking for is a concern that they haven't told you about. So whether it's maybe they feel like you're slightly overqualified for the position, underqualified for the position, they didn't see some software on your resume that's a must-have for this position, that you now have the opportunity to tell them, oh, wait, I do have Oracle. It's not for my last job, but the job before that, I had it for 5 years and I was the SME. Whatever it is, it hopefully will allow you to answer anything they're concerned about that they're not telling you about. And I think that's a really important closing step.
Yeah, I think that's great. I've also heard it phrased as, are there any reasons that you feel I wouldn't move forward in the interview process? Like that's just a different way to phrase that. But yeah, you're trying to get ahead of them saying this person should not necessarily move forward because of XYZ and give you a chance to respond to those. So I totally agree.
Absolutely. And then after it's all said and done, I recommend a very, very brief email thank you note. There are people out there who have said the thank you note's dead or whatever, but about 4 months ago, I had they were software developers. They were both very good, both got great kind of marks on their interviews. I thought for sure they were going to go in one direction, and they ended up going with the other person. And the only difference that I can think of is the other person sent a very brief thank you note thanking them for the time. That was really the only difference. And that person got the job. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's still this day and age. It doesn't happen very often. It's definitely a way to set yourself apart. I think it's great. I did have a manager one time who shall remain nameless, who told me that thank you notes, they usually didn't move forward with that person because they came across as desperate. I'll be honest with you. You may not want to work for that person anyway. So anybody who has that philosophy might be a challenge to work for. So, I'd say send that thank you note because that may do you a favor in the end.
Yep, I think that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe reference back to something you discussed in the interview. It's always good just to, as a reminder, something you connected on, something you learned about the company. It was great to learn about this. And I look forward to the next steps and kind of just continuing that sales process of like, what is the next step? Always asking for the next step.
For sure.
Or how long, or when should I expect to hear back from you? Those kinds of things.
But with thank you notes, less is more. 3-4 sentences, max. If you write a book, it's not good. It's 3-4 sentences. Keep it short, direct, to the point. So
I think I have one more thing to add in interviews. Just
bring it on.
Be yourself.
Yeah. Authenticity.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, you're going to work for this company. They're going to know who you are. They're going to get to know your personality. And it's okay to this doesn't have to be robotic or formulaic. Adding some personality into into that interview and that conversation and being yourself. And if you get tripped up on a question, laughing about it and saying, that really threw me for a loop. Like, it's endearing, and it's just, it is something that I think, is going to make those conversations memorable. And at the end of the day, you want people to know who you are, and you want that to work out well for the company. So don't be thinking you have to be overly, formal, be articulate, you need to do all the things that are kind of the basics, but it's also okay to be yourself. There's a lot of AI and fakeness in the world today, and somebody, very well may remember somebody's laugh versus how they answered a question.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. That's our interview prep that doesn't suck. So if you liked it, let us know. Give us a comment. We're going to post this in a lot of different mediums. So hopefully you get to hear it. And If you have questions or topics that you want to hear, let us know. I encourage you again, join the Patreon. It's only going to be $10 a month. If you're in a job search, hopefully you'll find some useful information. That second podcast with the Q&A, as well as all the things we'll be adding to the Patreon site.
Graham, are you doing any resume reviews right now, or offering that as a service, or no?
I do offer job search coaching, which involves resume review. ChatGPT does a good job of resumes. I can help your resume stand out further by adding some things to kind of help it look good to AI as well as a human eye. I haven't taken on any clients there yet. It's something that I am going to do. But if there's anybody out there who is really struggling in their job search and they feel like they need some help, contact me. Let's work something out. I'd love to work with you.
Stridestaffing.com or the Patreon.
Stridestaffing.com covers all this. Even the Patreon has the link there.
Yeah.
2Talented podcast is on our website. Just go there. But there's a area. But at the end of the day, you can just email me, Graham at Strides Staffing. There's 2 S's, stridesstaffing.com. And I can answer any questions that you got, and we can start a conversation that way.
Okay. I think that was great.
Awesome.
So again, if you're a job seeker, recruiter, or hiring manager out there, just remember we're all in it together.
Absolutely.